Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Tim, High Noons Vinyl, your friendly neighborhood vinyl guy. It is that time of year for everybody to put out their best of 2022 year lists, which looks like I'm a little late to the party, but why not? Let's get started. So this is a stack of new albums that came out this year that I have picked up, and just my brief thoughts. Some of these I have shown. Some of them, as I picked up, are kind of just saved for this. So 15 of them. Some of them are in digital format because that might have been the only way that they were available at the time. But I will insert a picture and talk about them. But these are my faves of the year. So number 15 is the new one from Scorpions, Rock Believer. Came out, I believe, in February or March of this year. Really enjoyed this one. It's a solid album, but they don't have anything left to prove. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, in my opinion, really didn't break any new ground with this album, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I mean, it was what you'd expect from a Scorpions album. Hard rocking, just very enjoyable. But it definitely wasn't one of my favorites of the year. But I didn't necessarily I didn't regret buying this at all. I thought that Klaus sounded very strong on the album. I just thought that, in my opinion, there were better releases. So number 15 this year is Scorpions, Rock Believer. Number 14 is the first of the 4 digital albums I'm going to show, and that's Kid Cudi's Intergalactic. Now, this one is actually coming out on vinyl in January, and I will probably pick it up at some point because I am a Kid Cudi completist. I really enjoyed Kid Cudi. He is definitely left of center when it comes to the hip-hop genre. I have found that the ones that I have enjoyed the most from him are the Man in the Moon trilogy, where he's dealing with his alter ego, Mr. Rager. He deals with the depression and anxiety and addiction through the eyes of this alter ego. But he's done other albums as well that he likes to experiment with. And in Intergalactic, it was kind of created as a soundtrack to this show, which I have not seen on Netflix, but it's one of those albums that it's a very much a mood-driven album. It's not something I could return to all the time for Cudi, and it may not be the first choice, but it's like if I want something a little bit more down, a little bit more mellow, not saying there isn't, extremely well thought out lyrics, but most of the album is more of a down tempo. It's more of a I won't say a background listen, but it definitely is more of a sit back, relax, and kind of chill album. And I appreciate that. But it definitely wasn't my favorite from Cudi, but I did think it was a strong album. So at 14, I have Kid Cudi's Intergalactic. At 13, I have the one of the 2 albums from King Crooked and Joel. This is another digital release. King Crooked and Joel Ortiz, half of Slaughterhouse. King Crooked had a very illustrious career, so did Joel Ortiz. Very much more independent, even though King Crooked was assigned to different labels at the time and has worked with a ton of people. This was their second album of the year, and this one's Harbor City Season 1. So they did an album earlier this year, The Rise and Fall of Slaughterhouse, which I thought was a good album, but it was more of a closure. It was more of a get something off of our chest. And that's great. I mean, I'm glad that they kind of closed the chapter on Slaughterhouse, and they did it for the fans and they did it for them. And there was definitely some controversy and shade thrown after that album. But I think by doing that album, it allowed both of them to say, we don't have to deal with that anymore. And they came up with this idea of this fictional city called Harbor City, which was like a marriage between LA and New York, where they're both from. And they almost ran it like a television show, even down to into some of the interlude skits were done as commercials. But what I think about on this one was that because they had gotten that weight off their chest, it really allowed them to really exercise their pen game. And there were moments where I thought King Crooked and his lyrical ability just shined through. It's a gamble to do like a hip hop thematic album like that. I think it paid off, but there definitely could have been, in my opinion, it was a little chunky. It was a strong album, and I've listened to it quite a bit, but it didn't grab me as much as I had hoped. But it does give me hope for more Joel and King Crooked in the future. So Joel and King Crooked at 13. Number 12, another hip hop album. This one came out earlier this year. It just got a physical release, and there was no way I was not going to grab it. And that's Phife Dawg's posthumous album, Forever. By far and large, this was probably the hardest album for me to listen to, not because of the content or the quality of the music, but this was my last kind of hanging on to the passing of Phife. We knew that this album was in the works. It had been worked on, shall we say, at the same time that they worked on Tribe's last album. Thank You for Your Service, I'll take it from here. But this one, like I said, was just, I knew it was coming. We were hoping we would see it sooner, and it took a couple years to kind of get it all together. But when it came out, it definitely was an emotional release for me to listen to. And you see it's on this bright orange wax. But it was very enjoyable. And I don't think that there wasn't anything left for Phife to prove with this album. I mean, if you're aware of Tribe Called Quest's work and you know the lyrical ability of Phife Dawg, there's nothing to prove. But this was just the I guess the last chapter of an illustrious and beautiful person's career who tragically was cut short because of diabetes and kidney failure. But because the Tribe was always one of my favorites, it was definitely emotional to listen to, and I make no bones about it. But I'm glad to have it, and I really enjoyed it. And once I got past the emotional aspect of it, I did return to it often, just because I love Phife's cadence and his work. Notable appearances on here from Busta Rhymes. Redman appears on a couple tracks. Q-Tip's on one. So, you know, Paz from De La Soul, Little Brother, Maceo from De La Soul. So definitely friends, colleagues, and brothers showed up to honor Phife, you know, one last time in a beautiful album. So Phife Dawg, Forever at number 11. And at number 11, I kind of closed with Tribe's, or Phife saying it was number 11, but oh, look who it is. Happy New Year. Big surprise. There's an Oliver.
Natural habitat.
Yeah, he appeared at his natural habitat. So the true number 11 was the new one from Ozzy Osbourne, Patient, number 9. I picked this up on the purple. You can kind of see it there on the purple vinyl. I was really surprised with this one. I mean, just an incredible lineup of musicians on here. Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Taylor Hawkins, Tony Iommi, Mike McCready, Duff McKagan, Chad Smith, Robert Trujillo, obviously Zach Wild joins them again. I was really, really, really impressed with this one. The last album, I know some people said it grew on them. I couldn't get into it. I tried. But when I saw the lineup on this one, I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a run, and I'm so glad I did. I thought this was a very strong album. This was a great return for Ozzy. I don't know if this is the one he'll go out on. I feel like he may have one more in his tank. I don't know, but I found myself finding that I had memorable songs after this one. Like after playing it, a few songs got stuck in my head. Definitely Mr. Darkness, where Zach just goes nuts on. So I enjoyed this one. It definitely felt like one that I wanted to crank up loud and just kind of throw the goats and just rock out with Ozzy. So number 11, Ozzy Osbourne, Patient. Number 9, in my opinion, a very strong release from him this year. 10, Bartees Strange, Farm to Table. So I was turned on to Bartees Strange by John, the Digital Gramophone. He had sent me his debut, where Bartees kind of let his love of different genres of music do the talking. And this is not an exception as well. He, in my opinion, channels about 5 or 6 different genres of music on this album and does a really good job with balancing between those. The leadoff song, Heavy Hearts, I think is just a strong opener of an indie rocker. And you'll find it if you were listening to this whole album, most of it is indie rock, like an alternative rock feeling, but there was one that had like a dance number to it. There was definitely one that tapped into some old R&B, Hennessy, that really just kind of really just spread his talents in different directions. And I thought really just like if you were to make a theme, like an album full of dance music, it would be successful, or R&B music would be successful because the way he does it. There was one miss on this one for me this year, which was we were only closed for like 2 weeks. It's a short song. It's almost like an interlude, but to me, I don't know what he was going for as far as the experimentation. It just didn't seem to fit, and honestly, kind of broke the flow of the album for me. Had that not been there, I might have actually scored it higher because I thought it was a well-rounded, great sounding album that I thoroughly enjoyed. And if you're not familiar with Bartees Strange, I highly suggest you check him out a little deeper, especially if you have multi genres that you're interested in. You're probably going to find something that you like. So number 10, Bartees Strange, Farm to Table, as we get into the top 10. I can buy that damn phone. When I think about your little face, yeah. How you bled out in the sheets, yeah. How the doc says you was clean. All the way jumping, I never see you like that. I really at number 9 this year, and this one on paper really should have been a lot higher, and I'll get into my thoughts on that. And that is Danger Mouse and Black Thought. The official name of the album, which I can't see, Cheat Codes. I don't know why I forgot that. Just had a brain cramp. So first time a full LP solo from Black Thought, and delivers. I mean, lyrically, you're not going to find anybody in the game any better than Black Thought. We get an incredible posthumous track with MF Doom, excuse me, in Belize. Features Raekwon on The Darkest Part, which is just fantastic. No Gold Teeth is just a banger. Michael Kiwanuka is on here. A$AP Rocky and Run the Jewels, which just sounds great. He does another track with the Griselda family and Conway the Machine. He's done stuff with Benny the Butcher before, and that's fantastic. So lyrically, you can't argue with Black Thought's genius. My ultimate critique in this is that Danger Mouse is no slouch when it comes to being a producer. And I expected Danger Mouse to kind of bring things a little more than he did on this album. I mean, you're working with a lyrical giant like Black Thought, and I felt that the beats and the sample selections and the way that they were chopped didn't quite live up to what Black Thought could bring to the table. And in times, it was almost like Black Thought had to elevate the beat by his wordplay and his delivery. So, had Danger Mouse, in my opinion, worked at the level I know Danger Mouse could. This could have been my hip hop album of the year. Lyrically, it's stunning, and it's still a fantastic album. Fans of the Roots should definitely listen to this one, because Black Thought at moments just goes nuts. But at number 9, I have Cheat Codes, Black Thought, and Danger Mouse. At number 8, I have Birth, their self-titled debut. Born, or well, not self-titled debut, but Born is the album from Birth. This one was a nice surprise and recommended to me by Anthony Farrow, the prog father, frequently seen on In the Prog Seat. This one is everything you would have hoped a 70s prog rock, slight psychedelic album would be. This one just absolutely blew me away. It was a great discovery. Very much reminiscent of like ELO, a little bit of Toll, a little bit of a Yes in it. Just overall, fantastic album. If you're in the mood for something very reminiscent of that era, but looking for something new, highly recommend Birth, the album Born. Really worth your time. I know I featured this before. Should be streaming out there as well, so if you go and check that out. Birth. At number 7, My Sleeping Karma. This is Atma. So I learned about these guys. I believe it was on Instagram. Someone had shared an album of theirs and was talking about them, and it just sounded something I'd be interested in. And I had a gift card to Amazon from work, and had picked this one up at a decent price. So this is a 4-piece instrumental stoner rock, psychedelic rock, sort of prog out of Germany. Very much a Tool vibe. I mean, if you're not getting it from the crazy imagery, kind of show you all that. The music, not as much in that it's multi or polyrhythmic or multi-time signature or things like that, but definitely has that heavy bottom end stoner feel that earlier Tool had, and they embrace it extremely well. I've spun this one quite a bit since getting it, and it was just absolutely fantastic. A blind buy that paid off. I mean, first the imagery just like sucks me in, so it just goes to show you a good cover will sell you every time of the day. But My Sleeping Karma, Atma is the name of the album. It's tough because all their albums and titles are in Sanskrit, which I am not fluent. I don't speak it. Sorry. But really great stuff. I definitely want to check out more from this band. So these guys, strong contenders for one of my new favorite bands. I want to check them out more. My Sleeping Karma. So check them out. Number 6, I have the new one from Kendrick Lamar. This is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. This one obviously made a ton of noise when it first came out. We had been waiting almost impatiently at this point for a new album from Kendrick Lamar, even though we kind of got a little bit of one with the Black Panther soundtrack. But this one was a welcome addition to the 2022 release schedule, especially for hip hop. But if I'm being honest, and I generally am, I didn't like this one as much as Damn. Not saying that this is not a fantastic album. Not saying that on this album, Kenny doesn't have some incredible wordplay and is just extremely thought-provoking with his lyrics. He's one of those few that makes no assumptions on how he is going to deliver his words. They are calculated. His pen game is remarkable. He may be the best of that generation. I mean, it's arguable between him and Cole, but to me, Damn is still his pinnacle. It is his masterpiece. This one, I would reach for less than I would Damn or To Pimp a Butterfly, if I'm honest. But that's not saying it's a bad album. Had there been no Damn, this probably would be his. I don't know if it'd be his best, but it's still a strong album, and it's still very, very worthy of any hip hop fan's time and collection. And that's why I ranked it so high, is because I did really enjoy it. But on a curve, because I'm going to grade Kenny a little bit harder because he is just that good. It's not my favorite from him, but still an incredible album. Lyrically, this, well, no, I'm gonna shush because I got more coming. But lyrically, some of the best of the year. So Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Here we are, top 5. And at number 5, the new one from Porcupine Tree, Closure, Continuation. This was the white vinyl one. I did feature this one earlier in the year. What can you say about Porcupine Tree? To me, this might be in their top 5. To each their own. I know some people weren't as impressed with it. They said, oh boy, it's just another Porcupine Tree album. What do you do? To me, this one was fantastic. It did not feel like, it's like, oh, we're going to get back together after so many years. And we're going to do an album and a tour and yada, yada, yada. It didn't feel like it was just something that had to be done or was fan service or was a cash grab. There were some fantastic ideas on this album. And I thought this album truly delivered. This one, just from the moment I played it, it just hit all the right notes for me. I mean, kind of hard to go wrong with Steven Wilson. He has a tremendous upside. Like I said, just the band was fantastic. Would have loved to seen them, but dang, them ticket prices were killer. But probably some of the best, at least in my opinion, some of the best prog out there this year. Porcupine Tree, Closure, Continuation at number 5. For another digital album and my runner-up for hip-hop album of the year, and that's Nas's King Disease 3. So Nas kind of came out of nowhere later in the year and dropped this third in this series of King Disease, where he has worked with Hitman exclusively with the production. This album, no features. This album is Nas in his element. This is Nas almost hungry, almost reminding everybody why he is one of the best to do it. I hadn't heard Nas this sharp, this tight, all around, beginning to end, for quite some time. I liked King Disease 1 better than 2. There were some songs I felt weren't as strong as others on both projects. But this one was, let me remind everybody who I am, and just was fantastic start to finish. It's a good Nas album when A, you're finding yourself wanting to drive around more so you don't have to turn it off. And B, you keep backing up what it was he said so you can catch not just the wordplay and the double entendres, but it's just like, did he just really say that? and there were so many moments on this. I thought the creativity of his game was just top notch. Like I said, I hadn't heard Nas this sharp in quite some time, and this one is going to be on, or should be on, every hip hop's list as far as some of the best. Now, physically, I think you can get the CD now through his website. The vinyl is going to be out end of March, so I'm hoping to get that then. So I know you can pre-order it at his website. I don't know if you can at others yet as well. But if you are a lyrical fan, check out Nas's King's Disease 3, my number 4 album of the year, and like I said, my runner-up for my hip-hop album of the year. Number 3, and my favorite metal album of the year, Megadeth, the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. This one, the way I gauge a thrash album is, would I get a speeding ticket to it? I'd get pulled over on the Autobahn for going too fast with this one. This one blew me away from beginning to end. There was not a single song that I felt was out of place or didn't need to be there. And I know that there was some controversy with re-recording the bass parts and stuff like that, but I thought this was worth every bit of wait. It was worth every bit of anticipation. Dave Mustaine just delivered yet another kick you in the nuts masterpiece that these guys can do. I mean, I know there's been some of their newer albums been kind of hit and miss. Not this one. I got no skips. This is just straight. Let the gas down, tear it out, peel out of your driveway, piss off the neighbors, loud and proud, thrash metal that I love. And this one, in my opinion, just kicks so much ass. I couldn't help but want to play it loud, and that's a sign of a killer album. This one will, if I ever do a Megadeth discography, this one will have to rank pretty darn high, just because I fell in love with it that much. So at number 3, Megadeth's new one, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. Definitely worth your time if you haven't picked it up. And if you haven't, why not? Because it's that damn good. At number 2, my last digital album and my favorite hip-hop album of the year, KRS-One's I Am a MC RU12. So I have been a fan of KRS-One since I had my first time hearing Boogie Down Productions. There's a reason why KRS is frequently mentioned in the top 10 or top 5 MCs of all time, and that's because the pen game is there, the lyrical ability is there, there's a swaggerness to his delivery. He can definitely perform. He just constantly delivers. And on this album, from what I could see, there was no physical release. So this is a completely independent, digital-only release. He delivered in what I would consider his best album, probably in 10, 15 years, easy. He worked with, literally, I mean, he has a couple of features on there. Like, I know Slick Rick's on there. He has Sean One. I don't think that's his son. I think his son goes under a different name. But this truly felt like underground hip hop, lyricism. Every song was a completely different style, and every song, the lyrics and his ability and his wordplay was just phenomenal. And just when I thought, okay, that's it, that's the best song on the album, the next song would come in. I don't think a lot of younger kids are going to get this one. I just don't, because they look at some of us older fuddy-duddies who listen to rap and whatever, and they don't get it. But to me, there just wasn't anyone album I rode to, that I nodded my head to as much as KRS. My hip hop album of the year. You're not going to see a lot of other places mention it, and it's a damn shame, because this one was strictly for the culture. This one was what hip hop was all about. It's about MCing. It's about just bringing it down. And let me tell you, this is the KRS that I love. So, number 2, favorite hip hop album of the year, KRS-One's I Am a MC. Are you one too? My favorite album of the year, and I kind of called this early, only because of what the feelings I got listening to this. And that's the new Tears for Fears. The new Tears for Fears album, The Tipping Point, came out early this year. I did get the Target exclusive because it came with the 7-inch. The color didn't really matter to me. I wanted the extra 7-inch, which is in here somewhere. But this album, from beginning to end, on my initial listen, I just had goosebumps. This was an album full of emotion, full of integrity, full of incredible songwriting, with a purpose and a hope that maybe there's a better tomorrow. Now in 22, we didn't get it, and I don't think they necessarily meant it in a political aspect, but I mean, with some of the personal issues that they have gone through with the band, to Roland's issues, I think he just recently lost his wife who was writing this album. It was a fitting theme for the tipping point. Excuse me, the tipping point of, it's all going to come down to the tipping point of, we've worked past the problems and now here we are. It's a better tomorrow. There was a melancholy, there was a sadness, there was a new hope, all in one album. Excuse me. And this one really just kind of encapsulated for me all of that emotion in one record. And every time I returned to it, I was just stunned at what I had heard. This was Tears for Fears really doing an incredible album. And it felt like they had just always been there, and it had always been waiting for them to just release it. This one meant probably emotionally the most to me, while still delivering some of the most incredible music I remember hearing of the year. And I know I featured this earlier, and I knew when I featured it, I said it was probably going to rank high. And looking at it objectively, I just didn't have an album that I returned to as much as I did, and still affect me in such a manner as Tears for Fears, The Tipping Point, my personal favorite album of the year. So that's it. My co-host has abandoned me. There is probably Roblox to play. But I appreciate everyone watching, tuning in, putting up with my shenanigans. And Happy New Year. Beef jerky time, and all that fun stuff. Now that we are about to enter into 2023, I wish all the best for you and yours. Don't startle 23. Let's tiptoe in, real cool, nice and quiet like. Let's not startle it. Let's not get anything crazy going on. Now sit back, hold tight for the 9,000 different vinyl tags. Thanks for putting up with my shenanigans. I love you all. Take care. Talk soon. Peace.